This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, so we were just zocheh to be at one of the legendary Mekoymos in Frankfurt at the grave of Rabbi Shamshon Rafael Hirsch. Just want to make note and thank my dear friend Rabbi Aaron Subar at the camera, who's going to be recording these shiurim for posterity. And if anybody has listened to the shiurim online, so Rabbi Aaron actually sends out the Mar Mekoymos every week a couple of times and responds to all the inquiries about receiving the Mar Mekoymos. On the email address is Rabbi Glatstein source at gmail.com. So if anybody wants some of the Mar Mekoymos of these particular presentations, we could try to get something over to you. So I want to share with you a few thoughts of Rabbi Shamshon Rafael Hirsch about child rearing. We mentioned his idea about the importance of a yes being a yes and a no being a no. Rabbi Shamshon Rafael Hirsch has a very innovative and profound insight into a Rashi in the beginning of Parshas Toldos, where the pasuk tells us about Yaakov and Esav, Vayigdelu hanaorim, and the children grew up. Vahi Esav ish yodei atzayir ish sadeh, and Esav was a man who knew how to trap, a man of the field. V'Yaakov ishtam yoshev oihalem. Yaakov was a wholesome man who dwelled in the tents. So Rashi picks up on the fact that only after it says Vayigdelu hanaorim, after they grew older, then Esav was recognized to be a hunter, and Yaakov was recognized to be someone who sat and studied. The lashon of Rashi is Kol zman shahayu ketanim, as long as they were young, lo hayu nikarim b'masayim, their actions were not recognizable. Ve'ein adam medakdek b'hem ativam, people didn't recognize what their nature was. So long as they were young, people just said, two nice, well-behaved, cute little yingalach. But once they became bar mitzvah, this one separated to go to the Beis Medrash, and this one went to the house of idolatry. So the simple way to read Rashi is that before they were bar mitzvah, nobody paid much attention to their inherent characteristics, and then after they became bar mitzvah, they each veered off to their respective paths. Rav Shamshon Rafael Hirsch has a different way to understand this chazal. It's not that nobody paid attention to them until they were bar mitzvah, but rather Chazal are indicting Yitzchak and Rivka. Not that nobody recognized, but we are criticizing them for not recognizing their inherent natures. Why didn't Yitzchak and Rivka pick up on the fact that the nature of Esav was different than the nature of Yaakov? Instead of trying to understand that Esav was not cut out for full-time learning, they should have recognized that Esav has different talents. Esav is a man of the world, and they should have groomed him to be an observant Jew out in the world, being able to maintain the traditions of the religion and be a man of society at the same time. But instead, they tried to raise Yaakov and Esav as identical twins. They were being both groomed to be full-time Talmidei Chachamim. Says Rav Shamshon Rafael Hirsch, this caused the ruination of Esav, that they didn't recognize Esav's ability, potential, talents, inclinations, and instead they sent Yaakov and Esav to the same yeshiva. And from here, Rav Shamshon Rafael Hirsch derives the principle of Chanoich Lenar Al Pi Darkoi, that it is the parent's responsibility from the time a child is small, from the time a child is a toddler, to recognize who this kid is, what are his capabilities, what is he cut out for, where will his future lead him, and guide him in a way that he will be successful with the talents that he has. Because, says Rav Hirsch, Esav could not make it in the Beis Medrash. That was not for him. And Yitzchak should have recognized that Esav would be a man of the world, and he should have groomed him to be an observant Jew out in society. Another mistake, says Rav Hirsch, that parents make is, says Rav Hirsch, one of the most fundamental mistakes in parenting is when a parent views their child as their possession. This child, he's mine. He reflects upon me. he's my doll. What are people going to say about me when they see him or her? The most fatal mistake a parent makes is when they view their child as a kinyan, a possession. And the first to make this mistake was Chava, when she named Kayin, Kanisi Ish Es Hashem. I bought him, I own him, he's mine, he reflects on me the same way my suit and my clothing reflect on me, and the same way my car reflects on me, my child reflects on me. I'm going to raise him in a way that reflects well on me. That is the most fatal mistake in child rearing. Kanisi Ish Es Hashem. I bought the kid. And that brought about the ruination of Kayin. Says Rav Hirsch, a parent has to recognize that a child is a gift from God. And therefore it is incumbent upon the parent to recognize the child's inherent and independent nature and inclination. And these are a few ideas of Rav Shamshon Hirsch. And just to close, says Rav Hirsch, another grave mistake that sometimes parents make is the pasuk Vayehav Yitzchak es Esav kitzayid befiv v'Rivka oheves es Yaakov. When parents have favorites, well, Esav was Yitzchak's favorite, and Yaakov was Rivka's favorite. Says Rav Hirsch, of course, if a parent shows a dislike or rejection to a child, we know what kind of terrible effect that could have on a child. But even worse than a parent showing rejection to a child is the ruination of a child comes from when a parent shows favoritism to a child. Because then the child grows up with a feeling of entitlement. Children have to recognize that the parents' feelings toward all the children are exactly equal. And that is, they have a God-sent mission and duty to bring out the potential of each child al pi darkai. But what happened to Esav was Vayehav Yitzchak es Esav. Esav went lost because Yitzchak loved him and showed him favoritism. So certainly these are not thoughts that we would be entitled to say on our own. Who could possibly go into the psyche of the Avos HaKadoshim? But great personalities like Rav Hirsch were able to detect the nuances of Chazal and go into the inner workings of the personalities and psyches of the Avos HaKadoshim, and these are some of the lessons of parenting that Rav Hirsch shares with us in his collective writings.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.